In this lesson, we will learn how to promote a Windows server to the first domain controller in a forest. Promoting a server to a domain controller is a two-step process. First, we need to install Active Directory Domain Services role along with the DNS role. After that, we need to promote the server to a domain controller. Since the server is the first domain controller of the forest, we need to select the deployment operation as add a new forest. Finally, we will sum up the lesson with the keynotes. This table shows us the configurations of the server that we are going to promote it to the first domain controller. The green path is the one that we have already completed, and the yellow path is the one that we are going to perform in this lesson. To install Active Directory Domain Services and DNS Server roles, we need to click on the Start button and click on Server Manager and click Manage and click Add Roles and Features. And here we click Next and Next and Next. And here we click on Active Directory Domain Services and click Add Features. And then we select DNS Server role and click Add Features. And here we click Next and Next and Next and Next and click Install. That's it. We have just installed the Active Directory Domain Services and DNS Server roles. Let's hit finish, and then we will click on close to finish. Let's talk about DC promo process. In the process, you are presented with the deployment configuration. Here you have several options. The first option is to add a new forest. Choose this option if you install the first domain controller of the forest. The next option is to add a new domain to an existing forest. Choose this option if you install an additional domain controller that hosts a new domain in the forest. The new domain can be a parent or a child domain. And the last option is to add a domain controller to an existing domain. Choose this option if you install an additional domain controller that hosts an existing domain in the forest. Next, the DC promo process will present you with the domain controller options. Here you can select functional level of the new forest and root domain. Forest functional level and domain functional level determine the capacity of the AD domain or forest and determine which Windows Server operating system you can run on domain controllers in the domain or forest. The functional levels do not affect the operating system of the workstation or member servers that are joined to the domain or forest. So here you should select the lowest version of the operating system of the existing domain controllers in your domain or forest. You can specify domain controller capacities in the domain controller options. The first capacity is domain name system or DNS server. This option is the must since DNS is the required role for a domain controller to function. The next capacity is global catalog server. this option is only required when there are multiple domains in the forest. And the last option is read-only domain controller. This option makes the Active Directory database on the domain controller read-only, which means the domain controller can only receive the update from other domain controller. Select this option if you have physical security concern in the location that you put the domain controller. In the domain controller options, you can set the directory services restore mode password. This password is not the same as the domain administrator password. It is used to restore Active Directory database for this domain controller. For the best practice, keep the password in the domain controller profile. In a small environment, use the same password for all domain controllers. The DC promo process allows to specify the location of Active Directory database, log files, and sysvol folders. For better performance, install the Active Directory database, log files, and sysvol folders on a dedicated drive. It is possible to migrate Active Directory database, log files, and sysvol folders to a new drive after the installation. Let's promote this server to the first domain controller in the forest. To do that, we need to click on the exclamation point and click on promote this server to a domain controller. And to make this server to be the first domain controller in the forest, we need to select the option add a new forest, and we type in the root domain name is itlifeskills.local. Then click next. Here we type in the directory services restore mode password. Then click next. Then click next. And here we click next. Now we want to install the database log file and sysvol in the D drive. So let's open the File Explorer and let's just open, and we click on D, and here we create the Windows folder. Type in Windows, and inside the Windows folder we create the NTDS folder and the sysvol folder. We type in sysvol. Now we change the path for database folder, log file folder, and sysvol folder to D. Then click next and next. And click install. So the installation will progressing through multiple steps. Let's just finish. Then we will click on the close button and close. Thus is we have just promoted this server to be the first domain controller in the forest. Now the domain controller is restarting. Let's wait until it finishes. And here we can log on. As you can see, it shows with the Nest Biot domain name. In this case, it is IT Life Skills, and we will log on with the administrator account. Let's type in the password of the administrator account and hit enter. And that's it. We have just logged on to the domain controller. This is the end of this lesson. Let's read the keynotes.